Elevated input costs, how they compare as USDA forecasts the third highest levels of all time. Questions on WOTUS, the tense exchange as lawmakers tell the EPA what farmers are feeling over the controversial rule. And it's Farm Family Friday. Later, we're going to travel to California, where one operation has extended their bell pepper harvest despite a number of challenges. Thanks so much for watching us here on Market Day Report. I'm Christina Loren. Input costs are expected to remain elevated into next year for most crops like corn, soybeans, and wheat. USDA's cost of production forecast for 2024 shows inputs will be at the third highest level of all time and only slightly behind record levels seen last year. A GOP Senate Ag Committee analysis shows crops like corn will cost around $856 per acre to produce, soybeans, meanwhile, at $1613 per acre, and wheat at $416. This all comes at a time when commodity prices are expected to fall. Corn is projected to fall by 27%. Wheat, meanwhile, around 15%, and soybeans are expected to drop by 13%. This could mean producers might see prices below break-even levels this year and next. An Illinois congressman says farmers feel the EPA has gone too far when it comes to WOTUS. There was a tense exchange in a House subcommittee hearing as lawmakers handed some tough questions to an agency administrator.
What we are doing is working to make sure that there is a clear, legal, and implementable definition of waters of the United States.
I think the Supreme Court has already ruled that you didn't do that, right?
The Sackett decision was focused ruling on a previous enforcement case. It was not a decision about the 2023 rule, but clearly there are aspects of the 2023 rule that are inconsistent with the Sackett decision. Therefore, we are moving quickly to provide regulatory certainty by striking the aspects of the 2023 rule that are no longer consistent. Our rationale for doing that is because we care very much about making sure that the entire regulated community has certainty and clarity. And that's
I think it's a shame that you talk about 50 years ago when the rivers were burning and we needed to do something. That's fine. But this is the problem that the American people feel. When the overreach comes so far that you leave the navigable waters that you should be governing and controlling, and we all want clean water, to worrying about what water runs off the brim of my hat is when you've gone too far. And that is exactly what this rule has done. And that is exactly what farmers feel.
And his sentiment definitely ripples out among the farm economy. Ag lawmakers are calling for EPA now to redo the WOTUS rule from the bottom up. But the agency has indicated they will take more of a surgical approach. They estimate the updated rule will be issued by September the 1st. USDA's chief ag trade negotiator says he's impressed with the solidarity of American farmers as they face Mexico's ban on biotech corn. Doug McCaleb says farmers understand that whatever the outcome is, it will send a strong message to the rest of the world. He adds the U.S. ag industry needs to make sure others don't backslide on science. Several lawmakers have introduced the Fridge Act. It would require USDA to boost infrastructure like cold storage in foreign markets. This includes negotiating contracts to deliver assessments, training, and other technical help. The bill would provide $1 million each year for the program. Cattle groups like NCBA are praising a new resolution recognizing the importance of programs like the Beef Checkoff. The filing comes after the OFF Act was introduced earlier this year, which sponsors say would bring reform and more accountability to checkoff programs. Well, U.S. tractor sales were up by 2% last month compared to the same time last year. Our farmers are starting to make more big investments. Combine sales also saw an increase, coming in at 10% higher than in June of 2022. Kurt Blades with the Association of Equipment Manufacturers shows us a further look. Thanks so much for joining us, Kurt. So we see that it has not been easy for the farm economy out there. Inflation has been high. We've seen fertilizer input costs going up. What factors actually contributed to the uptick?
Well, thank you for the question. And the real answer is, the overall tractor sales represents a broad strike.
Well, topsoil moisture and subsoil moisture, for that matter, across the eastern Corn Belt has been recovering nicely. I want to show you the latest drought monitor, the areas where we have the greatest concern going forward. Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, all the way into Wisconsin. You can see that deep red indicating extreme to exceptional drought. And in Texas, I'm actually surprised they didn't widen out that area of extreme drought in the center of the Lone Star State, but that will likely be the case when we get next week's drought monitor because it has been hot and dry across Texas. Now, with the exception of Texas, we've got more rain headed to the parched areas of the southern plains. With it, a severe weather threat that we're watching for you today right in the nation's heartland. We're also watching the mid-Atlantic for an additional threat. We have two systems on the map here. One is moving out. It's getting pushed by an area of low pressure, really strong area of low pressure that's producing some very strong thunderstorms at this hour. Take a look at this line. I do believe that could create a gust front. We're still watching this very closely for you. Frequent lightning. We've got gusty winds in excess of 50 miles per hour. And this is moving right across farm country, right across I-80 as we speak. We're going to continue to watch that for you throughout the rest of the day. Of course, that's the kind of weather that can really damage crops. As we get into your Saturday afternoon, what's left of that storm is going to move across the eastern third of the country, bringing more wet weather to states like Illinois, Indiana, Ohio as well, all the way south to the Gulf Coast. Move you forward in time, stop that clock for you again on Sunday. At this point, it's still on the map, moving out to the eastern seaboard. And then by Monday, it starts to move out to sea, getting a push from an additional system that will first bring ample rainfall across the western Canadian prairies. And then finally, it digs south, and we could accumulate 2 to 3 inches of rainfall across the eastern Corn Belt just over the next 7 days from that series of storms. We're looking at 2 to 3 inches, meanwhile, across states like Kansas, where it has been very dry. I do have some concerns about Nebraska and Iowa for the short run, but of course, we like to bring you the short run data and the long range data as well, where the 8 to 10 day forecast looks good for the nation's heartland. And now, as we take you all the way into the middle of August, 30-day forecast also looks good, above average across the Corn Belt. So even if we do get these temperatures that we are expecting to press into the 90s across the Corn Belt, that rain will help to mitigate the stress on our crops. Now, by tomorrow into Sunday, it is going to be hot across the nation's heartland, but then slowly but surely will cool you off as we head throughout Monday and Tuesday for the Corn Belt. But look at this, another round of triple-digit heat for the Lone Star State that will likely take a toll on pasture conditions. Stay with us, more to come. We're going to get you caught up with your markets with Scott Shellady. You can also catch his reports on Sirius XM, Channel 147, Rural Radio, where we are celebrating 10 years of greatness today.
Hey, this is Jesse Allen and everyone on the team here at the American Ag Network, American Ag Today, and Agriculture of America want to wish Rural Radio a happy birthday, happy 10 years on the air, and we look forward to many more years to come.